Good afternoon, everyone. I am Matt Rotunda. I'm the head men's basketball coach at Penn State York, where I have coached since 2011. Just a little bit about myself before we go into today's content that I have for everyone. I played 4 years of college basketball, 2 years at the junior college level at Ocean County College, and 2 years at my alma mater, Penn State York, where I coach now. I was an assistant coach from 2011 to 2019 and became the head coach in 2019, where in my time in 3 seasons, we've achieved quite a bit of success thanks to many, many individuals and their contributions to my basketball program. But today we're going to speak and talk with you all about the challenges of what it is exactly to kind of remain committed to a cause that's greater than oneself for an athlete, and how that can help to transition them, to greater personal and professional successes beyond the realm of, college athletics. Candidly speaking, I am working from home today along with my girlfriend, Lindsay. So both of us are, in our home offices today as we prepare to head out on our family trip to the Outer Banks in North Carolina tomorrow. So certainly excited for that. And but I did want to take the opportunity to be able to speak with all of you today and have an opportunity to kind of give you a picture through my presentation here on how we shape our men's basketball program and what we feel, as coaches and administrators and such, and what we feel, the checking of the daily boxes and the daily tasks, how those things can prepare individuals, of college age to move forward beyond, college athletics. We have been, for lack of a better term, kind of the standard bearer in our conference for success as an athletics program. We've won, numerous championships. We've been in many national tournaments, advanced to different stages of the national tournament via early round victories and moving on to progressing into the Final Four and things of that nature. So what you'll see in my content in the PowerPoint presentation here will be specific to what has worked for our program and the different aspects of the program, how they combine with the grind of academic responsibilities, and how that relates to the preparation through these things. What you'll see is kind of a summary of the day-to-day operations of our program, specific to what has worked for us, but then we'll have different talking points away from the actual content that you'll see. So I certainly appreciate everyone being here with us today, and I certainly appreciate BSN for allowing me the opportunity to partner with them to be able to present this. I'm going to move here and see if I can share the screen.
Hey, Matt, I think you muted yourself.
How's that?
Perfect.
Okay, great. So this quote here from Coach Hurley, who is a coaching mentor of mine, and certainly kind of universally respected, and as a in the world of basketball. You may know Coach Dan Hurley. His son was coached University of Connecticut to the national championship this past year, here in 2023. But this quote certainly speaks to us as coaches and as leaders. Just says everything about building habits and preparing oneself for success through practice of good habits, and kind of honing in on certain approaches that can work. But I've always been a proponent to all my athletes that you never want to be obviously a procrastinator, but beyond that, you want to have the confidence necessary to be able to trust yourself that you're going to be able to complete all daily tasks, that you're going to be able to always kind of have a second nature existence as a young professional, as an athlete, to always be reliable, dependable at all times. And that's what that kind of says to me, as a somewhat of a protege of Coach Hurley's. So certainly wanted to share that. I'm going to move forward here. Okay, perfect. I wanted to make sure I wasn't still muted. So obviously in all levels of college sports, you must love the sport that you're participating in order to, achieve some degree of success in it. I mean, it's a daily responsibility. There's a grind that goes along with academic responsibilities that you have to be able to tackle on a daily basis. And, obviously it's a longer season. And so there's just a little bit more, necessary to be able to have to kind of tackle that with, putting the demands on performance, and being able to push through certain, tougher weeks. There's times you have 3 away games in a week and 2 exams, just as an example, that can just completely, totally make you, force you to kind of, overcome certain barriers and certain hurdles to be able to sustain degrees of success, and also contribute to, your team's success. And how does that relate to, shaping an existence for yourself to where you can put yourself in position to be successful as a young professional or beyond the realm of athletics. Well, there's unique challenges, in the professional world every day. If you're working in sales, no deal and no is the same twice. No customer is the same. Clients have different needs. There's different points that you want to harp on, to be able to, progress through a deal, to forge relationships that are, trusting on both ends. And so, certainly, I've always believed that, relationships between, amongst peers, where you're solving problems together, as teammates, or you're trying to figure out kind of certain ways to adjust to an opponent, together. I just think that that's always been something that has been unique to college athletics, where there isn't quite as much as much in other types of group activities, in my opinion, that go toward, or that relate directly toward the similarities to having to work together or find, one-ups on, on opponents, when in the, the young professional world. I'm going to move forward here and see if I got to push this to the next slide here. Obviously, you have to love the game. In basketball with a longer season, you always are, needing to be in situations where, you're constantly putting time and deposits. We call them the daily deposits, into your craft. As an athlete, as a player, you're always there's so many different layers to the game of basketball specifically. When you're talking offense, defense, you're talking, remembering sets, having the right attitude to push through times when performance isn't, quite up to speed, with different kinds of skills that you have to be able to be consistent, to contribute toward your team's goals and success. Players, because of the daily grind and the physical toll that it can take, you're rarely 100% physically. So you're dealing with having to kind of go through different situations while maybe being hampered by anything from fatigue to bumps and bruises and different things, that you're playing through, that you're practicing through, that you're in the weight room, and working out during those times. And, all the while you're responsible for homework assignments, attending classes, making sure you're kind of up and ready for each day. We always have our toughest practices, on weekends, when we don't have a game on a specific Sunday, because we know that, there's no classes those days. So, guys will come to us and tell us that even though they know practices on the weekends are tougher, they're almost relieved that they are not combined with, having to be in class for 4 hours that day, or, having to, come in, go to class, study with a study group, get an assignment done, then come in and deal with all their basketball responsibilities. It's almost half a day off when you only have to deal with one or the other. And, if you want to be successful in college sports, there can't be too many days off during the season, quite candidly. So at least that's my belief. And so, our biggest thing, rule number one, when recruiting a player, is that do you love this to where you can make this a part of your everyday moving forward? And when you move into the world of jobs, 40 hours a week, full time, it's not always going to be something necessarily that you love, but it is going to always be something that you have to put daily deposits and time into. And so sometimes within your sport, there can be stressors, tough games, long road trips, not a lot of rest, back-to-backs, didn't play well, haven't practiced well, your role changed, somebody else is playing better than you, you're not playing as much, you're putting all this time into it, and it can be such a good trainer for anything that can happen in the professional world. Somebody gets a position over you, somebody gets a bigger assignment than you, somebody is more trusted or more connected or more, more looked upon as being more well-rounded from a professional standpoint. They get plugged into an opening or a promotion ahead of you. You're putting more time in or putting more effort in, and, or both. And, for whatever reason, someone else gets the nod. You're still responsible for, bringing home a paycheck, supporting yourself, helping to support a family perhaps. And, you have to kind of get over those things and almost over your own ego at times, set that aside to be able to kind of, push through and continue to, have a career. And, in college athletics, these things happen on a daily basis. I mean, every single day, 6 assistant coaches and myself will go through, a process we call stock up and stock down. We'll call names out, and we're sitting in the office amongst each other, and it's either, thumb up or thumb down. And that person's stock climbed that day or it went down. And, players, they don't get comfortable with, but they get used to the idea that they're always being evaluated. And, in the professional world, it's no different. They're always being evaluated. There's always different processes within a given company that are being evaluated and visited, revisited, refined to be able to try to, just make things more efficient, create an atmosphere where the company and those who are doing the work to move, to kind of produce operations within the company, their processes are always, not, I don't want to say called into question, but they're always being looked at to be able to be, for improvements. Small improvements can be made at any time. And I think that's an important note here, is that, there's always room in any company for improvement. For us, having won over 80% of our games in the last, several years, there's still room to improvement. We're not going undefeated. We're not holding teams under 40 points every game. So there's continuous work to be done, to strive toward not just improvement for the betterment of oneself, but improvement for the betterment of the group as a whole. As an athlete, you transition into a situation where, you're looking within yourself to where you're trying to achieve a degree of improvement that brings value to your company, that brings value to your workplace. You're trying to provide, or at least help to foster an environment where others can look within themselves to find improvement. And I think that those things are, certainly directly correlate. And, there's no substitute for having to have gone through that type of process before within oneself and as part of a unit. So, certainly something that I find, that our players and, young graduates, as they move on into the workplace, I ask them questions. I maintain, relationships with many of our alumni that, have played for me, some that played with me, a number of years ago. And, we always talk about those things, about how, this, specific situation where we had to adjust together as a group, popped into their mind during a time when, their company was, for whatever reason, going through a transition of some sort, whether they're, merging or downsizing or whatever the case may be, or changing processes, as I mentioned earlier. As I mentioned before, obviously a long season. So there you can see the different types of things that we would do in our season, and how it just stands to take such a chunk of time of a person's day. Just on a non-game day, you're looking at, could be 4 to 5 hours of things that you're responsible for in a basket, just related to your sport, just related to basketball. And the season lasts from October, could be to the 3rd week, 4th week of March. It's almost like game days are easier, especially if there's no travel involved. And we do say that. We say to guys that, practice, if you do what you're supposed to do on practice days, and if you approach those the right way, the game is easier. In some ways, games are certainly more intense during the time that, it's obviously win or lose, and there's one team that wins, one team that loses. You're striving to achieve results to help your team, but it's but the actual training and preparation that goes into that, you spend so much time on that, trying to perfect certain things, nuances, finding angles to be prepared to make an adjustment, things like that. Moving forward here. Obviously, the physical demands of maintaining a degree of physical condition. Penn State York, the daily deposits, we have skill training, we have practices and games, team shoot arounds, and a weight training regimen that our assistants help to run, that put our guys through through the ringer, so to speak, of every muscle group is hit twice a week, and every part of an offensive skill set to help players to become more well-rounded is practiced away, as a skill training session away, apart from being in, a team practice. And so, it's certainly important to be able to not just check the boxes, but to also kind of sustain a level of focus that allows you to go through these things and consistently do things from a fundamental standpoint that allow you to build the correct habits to improve upon what your skill set is, or take the level of a fundamental skill set and put it and take it from a certain level of consistency and improve it to where the ceiling or potential of your performance can grow, week in, week out. Obviously, as mentioned earlier, the demands of time, sustaining focus, the mental preparation that goes into not just preparing for an athletic contest, but the time management, the time allocation that you have to be prepared to not just give your sport, but balance alongside your academic responsibilities, attending classes, completing assignments, being in study sessions, possibly having to spend extra time with an academic support, resource. And obviously, remembering and having the ability to kind of not to slow yourself down, but be able to have the, operate within your sport to where the game or the nuances of the game, have slowed down for you. There's that can only happen through an accumulation of time and hours. And that's kind of why we've always maintained that you can achieve, a level of and sustain a level of success as a team with, by primarily counting on a lot of upperclassmen. Obviously, in college sports, there's a transfer culture right now that doesn't allow you to get some of your guys to their junior and senior year all the time. But if you create a program that players and athletes can see, themselves improving, see themselves succeeding in the different areas of of their lives, academics, athletics, it almost fosters an environment that they almost worry in some ways that if they would redirect, I'd take pride in the fact that they would fear maybe that they wouldn't find an encompassing program that would allow them to continue to develop, at our level anyway, in both avenues consistently. So, the one thing I want to make note of before we move on to possibly seeing, any questions or allowing you, opening up for questions. The one thing I want to make note of is that obviously there's more than one way from an individual and from a team standpoint to become successful, to sustain a degree of success. These are just examples from what we have been able to do through the practice of my program. However, we go back to, and let me see if I can go back to this first slide here. we go back to, you know, the first slide here, and we look at the approach of not just being at it early, but getting a chance to kind of know yourself, to trust yourself. That, having a process, having approaches in place that you can follow, that work for you, or in my case, that I know has worked for my program, allows you to kind of have a foundation that you can build on. If you can identify certain things that allow you, to be able to focus better. For me in school, it was always, I would take notes in school, whether it was on a laptop or handwritten. And for me, my way of studying those notes was to copy them again. I would handwrite them a second time, after class or later on that night. That would always allow me, much easier than reading it 3 times, writing it a second time. I would always remember writing something. And, but, everybody has to find how they, what works for them in their approach. And so by allotting yourself the time necessary to sort of find yourself, to experiment different things, methods, it can certainly open your eyes and open the door to be able to, find ways to build on, not just success, but to build on your own approaches, to adapt and adjust, whether, you're following an approach that works for this, and now maybe something else works for a math class. Maybe you have to, diagram out, or ask a coach to diagram out something, that will help you to remember an out of bounds set, that will help you to remember, be able to anticipate when something may be called, so that you're ready for that. And I think that being open to different approaches, knowing yourself, and being able to kind of hone in on what works for you individually will allow you to be able to develop into a young professional, and then eventually professional, veteran professional that sort of has those things that you've already gone through, experiencing in your late teen years, early 20s, in the time as a collegiate athlete. And I've always felt that not just how those things correlate, but how college athletes have such advantages over others that didn't have the opportunity to participate in a college sport. I mean, I can remember, working different types of jobs during the time that I was on campus, working different jobs that, in the summers, whether serving or bartending, or, delivering things. And there's certainly, no substitute for having to, find different, check different boxes to complete different tasks to do your job that someone's paying you to do. But when you're in an environment where you're preparing for, games and different things, it's an environment that you love. It's a sport that you love to play. It's something that you love to participate in. So you can't really substitute the level of, if you really want to be successful at that sport that you love, the level of focus and energy that goes into that is just totally different than other things that you may undertake to be able to kind of, make a part-time paycheck as a college student, or, try to get, a B or a C in your English class. Candidly speaking, yes, those things take effort. They take mental preparation. They take studying. They take time, for sure. But when you really love something, when you love a sport, it's just a different level of focus and commitment that goes toward it when you really want to get good at it. So you enjoy the process despite the hurdles that you have to overcome, the physical toll, the mental toll that it takes on you. You learn to kind of enjoy the process of doing the work that is necessary. And so, I think that, if you're in a type of occupation or you have a trade or you have a job that you're doing on a full-time basis after college, maybe you're making making use of that degree that you have. Those things, while it may not be something you love quite as much as the sport you were into, you learn to kind of love the process that goes into that, you kind of immerse yourself into, to be able to, it gives you a level of satisfaction that you're able to kind of immerse yourself into those processes and learn to love completing those tasks and contributing to the company or organization that you're part of. So from a communication standpoint, from a preparation standpoint, certainly I feel that there's not a whole lot that can prepare young individuals from being successful in the professional world as being involved in college athletics. So thank you. That's my presentation. Thank you for everyone for being on. And I'm happy to follow lead here and see if there's any questions. Saxton, if you wanted to jump on there.
Awesome. Well, first, I want to say thank you for the awesome presentation and all the coaches who hopped on. We did have a question and asked if you see a big difference between athletes who do participate in college athletics versus athletes who stop at the high school level and what those big differences might be.
Yeah, I do. I just see the difference in the time commitment. And when you could be a pretty good natural athlete, play a high school sport. Most of the best athletes in high school might even play multiple sports. And when you're at the college level, very, very rare do you have the time that you can play multiple sports. You have to be, first of all, you have to be good. I think it's only 7% or something like that of high school athletes move on to become a college athlete. So the time commitment, the longer seasons, a little bit more pressure to perform where coaches and others' jobs can be at stake on result, when it comes to, results. I would just say that at the college level, it's just a little bit more of a results-oriented business than what it is at the high school level, in my experience. Not to say that results don't matter, they do, but it's at the high school level, but it's just a little bit more emphasized and it's a more important aspect of the program as a whole is the results it's able to achieve.